All right, we are back. Part 4. We're going to start digging into the electronical components of the Whac-A-Mole machine. Now, so far I have removed the bad I/O board, and as you can see from the PCB, it melted pretty bad. We burned up some chips, some LEDs, and that is on circuit, it looks like circuit 1, circuit 2. Just looks like circuit 1 and circuit 2 took the biggest hit. These actually go to the solenoids here, and then those cables wrap around and go to the fuses. Now we're going to do some continuity tests, and we're going to see how many fuses are blown here. So just bear with me for a sec. Alright, so that one, mole number 1 is okay. Mole number 2 is burnt. Mole number 3 is popped. Mole number 4 is okay, and 5. So we have 2, which 1 is okay. I'm kind of surprised because 1 on the I/O board took a hit. So 2, 3, and 5. So those moles, when we pull the top out, are what we're going to want to focus on, and we'll do continuity check on the coils to make sure that the coils are okay. We can actually ohm test those, and they should pretty much be around the same ohms basically. So say, let's just throw a quick number out, say 2 ohms. Most of them should be within the 2 ohm range. Now, if you have one that's 2 ohms and then one that's like 0 ohms, then you know you got a problem. One that's 2 ohms and one that's like 2.3, that's acceptable. So we'll get the top pulled out and we'll check those. I don't see anything else off the bat that draws my eye. We'll take some voltage readings on the power pack, and then we have a 12 volt DC power pack over there. We'll take voltage readings on those, make sure they're okay. We'll probably do some continuity tests on the wires, make sure we don't have any shorts anywhere to ground. But for speeding up the purposes of this video, you won't see all that. You're only going to see stuff that is problematic. So you will see the solenoid testing and all that stuff, but as far as me going through all these wires and making sure that none of them are shorted out, we're just going to skip ahead with that stuff. So all right, so the I/O board is taken out, and you can see that the digital display error codes all went away. Now, just because that is all 3 dots, unfortunately, all those manuals that I have don't tell me anything. But what I did notice is when you press start,
let's play Whac-A-Mole.
It's trying to start the game, but obviously nothing's going to happen because the I/O board, which controls the moles, is taken out. So that is a good sign that the motherboard is still intact, and there probably, hopefully, is no damage done to it.
Wow! Let's see if you can do it even faster next time.
So what we'll do is we'll put the I/O board back and see if the motherboard will start the game, which I would assume it would not. All right, we got the I/O board back in there, and let's start this thing up. All right, so now we got the error codes because the I/O board is messed up. And the I/O board did light up. Let's see if the game will try to start, which I doubt it will.
Let's play Whac-A-Mole.
But it does. All right. So it seems like the motherboard is intact. And we'll check those solenoids, pull those out, make sure they're okay. And hopefully it's just a bad I/O board. All right, we're back for day 2. A little bit more refreshed, have a little bit more energy today. Yesterday was just a rough day at work and I just was not in it. But today, we're back at it. We're gonna get the top off. And last night while going through the wiring looking for shorts, I did notice on the micro switch that starts the game that these 2 wires right here were disconnected. And I did a voltage reading on them and they are 5 volts. And they obviously go to a light that is in the start button. Now for some reason the light bulb is missing and the wires were disconnected. So either the company that built this forgot to put the light bulb in, which I highly doubt, or somebody was trying to offload the circuits to find the short. So we have ordered a pinball light. I believe it's a 259, number 259 miniature light, but I ordered a 555 LED retro light for that, and that should be here tomorrow. The I/O board will be here Tuesday, and we'll get that in once we go through all the wiring and make sure there is no obvious short that we can find. Now we know yesterday we tested the fuses and some of them were blown out. I can't remember exactly, but today we're gonna take this top cabinet off where the moles are at. We're gonna disconnect these 2 cables, and there are 2 screws, Allen heads at the top. We'll pull this top cover off right here, and then there's going to be, I believe, 4 bolts that are gonna pull this whole thing up. All right, so just out of curiosity, before we pull this top mole piece off, I replaced 2, 3, and 5. Those fuses were the ones that were bad. It looks like the biggest hit was taken on 2. You can see it on the I/O board. On further inspection, it looks like 1 just got burnt because it was next to 2. So the fuses have been replaced, and I'm just gonna power it up because I just wanna see how bad the short is. Oh. So we did get mole heads that popped up. And that's not good because they're not popping down, which will cause a short. The solenoids will overheat and potentially blow the fuses. All right, so we're gonna try this one more time. This time we're gonna do it from the front and we're gonna see if it pops an error code. All right, so there's no error code. You get, this is mole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're getting 4 and 5 are popping up. 1 through 3 are not. No error code. And we're gonna turn this off because we don't want the solenoids to overheat. All right, so to get this top thing off, we just need to do these 2 Allen screws. And then the top plate just pulls right off. And then you're gonna see a series of bolts. The only bolts that you're gonna do are these 4 corner bolts here. You take these off and then this whole thing will just pop right out. Now I've already disconnected the 2 cables for the mole heads. It's the photo sensors and the solenoids. So we'll get this off, pull it out, and we'll ohm test the solenoids, make sure all the sensors are okay, and then we'll take it from there. All right, I just want to touch up on a mistake that I made earlier. I was under the assumption that this was mole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but according to the mole head location sheet, this is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that's kind of weird why they have it set up like that. I'm sure there's some kind of method to the madness, but so the only moles that are operating are 3 and 5, and I believe we had, let's see, it was 2, 3, and 4. I'd have to look back at which fuses were blown, but so we'll turn this thing around and we'll do a resistance test on each solenoid. All right, so this particular mole right here is mole number 2, and what we do is we disconnect the harness, the solenoid from the harness, and we're gonna put both our leads into the harness going to the solenoid, and we'll get an ohm reading, and the ohm reading is 9.1. Now, that shows that there is resistance within the coil. So what we'll do is hook that back up, and then we'll go to the next coil. Now all these solenoids should have around the same amount of ohms. It shouldn't be like way off. One shouldn't have 9 and the other one shouldn't have 1. If you have a difference like that between each coil, then that tells you that there is a problem with that particular coil. They should all be within the same range. So I've made a chart here. Our blown fuses were on number 2, 3, and 5. The blown I/O board was number 2. The working moles were 5 and 3. And the non-working moles were 4, 1, and 2. So we know 3 and 5 work. And so we're really going to want to focus on 4, 1, and 2, especially 2 since it blew the I/O board. So we'll go ahead and we'll take resistance readings and we'll see what we come up with. All right, finally, some good news. All the ohm readings came back good on the solenoids. So you got mole 1, mole 2, 3, 4, 5. As you can see, they're all within a decent amount of range. Now I believe there is I can't really tell, it's hard to see, but I believe that looks like a diode. So I took a reading before the diode and a reading after the diode, so you can see that the numbers are in a pretty good range. They're all within each other, so that's good news, because any of you who don't know about solenoids and Whac-A-Mole machines, these are about $227 a pop. So do the math. You're looking at over $1,000 worth of just solenoids for these little tiny moles that go up maybe about 3-4 inches. I mean, that's ridiculously crazy. And that's why people, when they see machines like that online for sale, especially when they say that there's a solenoid problem, people tend to steer clear of these things because it can get very, very pricey depending on how many solenoids you have bad. So that's a good thing. We're in the right direction. Next, we're going to check the photo sensors. And the way this machine operates is there is a photo sensor. So what it does is it shoots a beam of light across to the other side. So when this thing pops up, the beam of light can go from one side to the other. When you hit the mole, this shaft comes down, breaks the beam, and that's how the game knows you scored. Now, in this operator's manual that they have online, it gives you a wiring diagram of how the score sensors and the light beams work, and we will go off of that to take our readings to make sure each beam is okay. Now, it's a little excessive, but you know, we just want to make sure before we go ahead and pop another $127, I believe I paid for a refurbished I/O board. I could have bought the new one. I believe it was $180, something like that, but I decided to go with the refurbished one, and just in case, if you know, something bad goes on and it blows up again. But at this point, I want to say that probably what happened was, and this is just an assumption, somebody probably left something on top of the machine, probably on mole number 2 over here, left something on top of there. Somebody could have hit the game button on accident. The mole probably tried to get up. Maybe mole number 2 got frozen. Whatever happened, mole number 2 was probably up for too long. The solenoid probably could have overheated, but I highly doubt it because I believe mole number 2 readings were pretty good, 9.0. I mean, it's kind of hard to figure out what happened. I mean, somebody could have spilled coffee on this thing and burned it up. Who knows? But regardless, we're just going to keep on troubleshooting. And then when the I/O board gets here on Tuesday, after we've gone through all the wiring, made sure that there's no shorts anywhere, we're just going to plug that I/O board in. And I'm not going to edit that. If it blows up, catches on fire, I want you guys to see this. I want you to feel the pain with me. And we'll just keep chugging along. But until then, we're going to check these photo sensors and then we're just going to push on. All right, so we did all our own testing on the photo sensors and continuity and the wires, and everything came back good, which is another good win for me. Solenoids are all good, photo sensors are all good, wires are all good. It seems like there is no damage done to the upper half of the play field. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to move on to solenoid cleaning and the bore cleaning and the mole shaft cleaning. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull these C-clamps off with a screwdriver. Just pull them off, and once you pull that off, you're going to get this bushing, then this rubber bushing, and then you'll be able to release the bowl, and you just pull it right out, pull the shaft right out. Then there's going to be another rubber bushing and another plastic bushing. You take those off and you're going to clean the shaft with a corrosion inhibitor, electrical corrosion inhibitor. Then you're going to use a bore cleaner, and this is a 50 cal. So you'll just put some erosion inhibitor on the end of that. You're just going to pop this through just like if it was a rifle bore or a pistol bore. Pull that right out and you are clean, and you move on to the next one. Reassemble in the same way that you took it apart. Now there's another thing that I forgot to mention when we did our continuity tests on the solenoids, is that you have to make sure that once you plug these back in, that they plug back into the corresponding mole socket, because if you don't and you mix and match solenoid numbers with wires, what'll happen is when this thing first starts up, what it's going to do is go through a testing phase, and it's going to fire each mole head. And what happens is once it fires the mole head, it's going to wait for the signal to come back that the light broke and that it got the correct mole head. If it doesn't get that, it's going to pop an error code, and it'll tell you specifically what mole. I believe it's like E1 or E2, E3, whatever, error, whatever. And that'll tell you that something is wrong with that mole. It just means that you mixed up the wires. So that's a very important thing that I forgot to mention. I just want to mention that. So for now, we're just going to clean this up, and then we'll reassemble, put it back in, and we'll continue on with the wiring. But other than that, we're not going to show all the troubleshooting, the continuity test on the wire to make sure everything's okay. We're not going to show that. I'm not going to bore you with that. So the next part will be part 5. That'll probably be coming Tuesday when the I/O board arrives. And like I said, I'm not going to edit that. When I put that board in, it's make or break. If it blows up, I'm not going to edit that out. I want to share the pain, because that's what we do in the man cave. We just frivolously spend money on crap, and it doesn't matter if the I/O board blows up. We'll just push on and we'll get through it. So stay tuned. Part 5 coming on Tuesday. Hopefully. That's if I don't have to work overtime, but we'll see. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching.